That being said, just as an objective watcher and consumer of a lot of interviews with a lot of candidates, in my humble opinion, the dumbest sounding candidate of all of them, and it's not even close, is Javier Becerra. Scrub it. Going back to that original interview with Alex Michelson. Maybe he's a lot smarter off camera, but he sure doesn't come off that way on camera.
What are you doing here? Are you taking away regulations? Are you asking them to come back?
I want to work with them so they can continue to provide the gasoline. Oh, I'm going to work with them. We're going to talk to them. His answer to everything is we're going to put everyone in a room and we're going to come to a decision. He has no concrete plans for anything. How do you solve the housing crisis? Well, we're going to build. Okay? If it was that simple, why isn't Gavin Newsom doing that right now? I don't know. We're going to build.
Want to move on to affordability. As governor, you say you will declare a state of emergency that would then allow you to, quote, freeze utility rates, which continue to increase because these private investor utility companies are making a profit.
You're paying a lot of money. I bet you couldn't explain why. And that's why I'm saying it's time to freeze the rates right now. Let's get behind the curtain, figure out why.
So they're already expensive. Let's make sure they don't go up anymore. Okay.
You're paying a lot of money. I bet you couldn't explain why.
PG&E got 6 rate increases in a year. Can we explain that one?
You're paying a lot of money. I bet you couldn't explain why. And that's why I'm saying it's time to freeze the rates right now. Let's get behind the curtain, figure out why. And if the companies have a great explanation, we'll accept it. I think people will accept that.
Want to move on?
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, this right here, this answer tells me that he will be another in the long line of politicians paid off by PG&E.
The profit.
You're paying a lot of money. I bet you couldn't explain why. And that's why I'm saying it's time to freeze the rates right now. Let's get behind the curtain, figure out why. And if the companies have a great explanation, we'll accept it. I think people will accept that.
So what's going to happen is he's going to, with the stroke of a pen, freeze the rates so we can investigate why the rates are so high. And then he will come out with a press conference with PG&E and SoCal Edison, and they will say, well, we need to raise the rates so that we can continue to protect the state from wildfires and improve our infrastructure. And Becerra will say, that's great. You can continue to increase your rates.
Want to move on to your time as HHS secretary. Some critics call you the, quote, invisible secretary.
Came in during the height of the COVID pandemic when we left. After 700 million COVID vaccine shots in the arms of Americans, never once people having to pay a penny so they could be safe and not die.
During your time as HHS secretary, a New York Times investigation found the health department couldn't find some 85,000 children it had released.
That's not accurate. What you just read is not accurate.
That's what the report says.
That's not accurate. What you just read is not accurate. First, that's what I'll say, because it was never the case that we couldn't find kids. You're essentially, I don't know if you got those talking points from Donald Trump.
So now you're accusing the local KTLA journalist who's referencing a New York Times report of spouting out MAGA talking points. He gets really defensive about this. And what's funny is a lot of the incoming fire about his time in the Biden administration is coming from a lot of the Biden people.
For Secretary of Health and Education, I nominated Javier Becerra.
Don't forget that Nancy Pelosi threw a fit and nominated Becerra for HHS because she said he's dumb and not trustworthy. She didn't exactly say that, but to my understanding, it was something like that.
We love everybody.
I'm sure you do.
I don't know if you got those talking points from Donald Trump.
It's from a New York Times article.
That's not what the New York Times article said. The New York Times said that individuals, the children and their sponsors, did not respond to calls. They didn't say we couldn't find kids.
Well, wouldn't that mean that you couldn't find them if they, the number that was provided to the guardian that you released them to didn't return the call? Again, I think this is a very complicated story, and it was from a long time ago. If anything's going to knock him off the perch of first place, it's this interview.
working overnight in slaughterhouses, replacing roofs, operating machineries in factories, children as young as 14 years old.
That part occurred after these children had left the Department of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, but who did you release them to? Traffickers? Coyotes? People that wanted to employ child labor? Patty Lee Gifford?
You let these children go into those individual sponsors in their responsibility.
Some of these kids, probably because they needed to earn some money, started working in places that were very exploitive.
Oh, the kids needed to make a buck, so they needed to just get a job. It wasn't that we released them into an exploitative environment. They just, they had to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Some of these kids, probably because they needed to earn some money, started working in places that were very exploitive.
You've said we need a governor who is going to, quote, fight Donald Trump, not agree with them. So how will you work with the president, Donald Trump?
The way I did it when I was Attorney General.
So you continue to take them to the courts as governor.
What we'll also do is work on the other side, because it's not just about attack. We will defend ourselves, as we must, but also work with them.
I would really love to hear that entire 25-minute interview, because I don't think in the 4.5 minutes that we've heard so far of the snippets from the interview, we've heard one actual concrete policy idea from this guy.
Now, we also pressed Secretary Becerra about how his former chief of staff pleaded guilty to stealing money from Becerra's campaign account. Becerra describing this as a gut punch, saying
That's his scripted line, and he says it every single time.
Becerra describing this as a gut punch, saying everyone should be accountable for what they do. And while Becerra has not been charged with any wrongdoing in this case, the Sacramento Bee is now reporting this morning anonymous complaints were submitted just yesterday accusing Becerra of violating campaign finance laws. He has not yet commented on this report.
I was struck by how the conversation began with this idea of you're doing a profile, this isn't a hit piece. Well, what's the context?
Yeah, even Frank Buckley is perplexed. Like, boy, are you just trying to implode your own campaign?
What's the context?
Honestly, I was caught off guard because
especially in the context of a former frontrunner imploded her campaign by saying stupid things to a reporter.
What's the context?
Honestly, I was caught off guard because it was so dramatically different from any of the other candidates that we had approached and sat down with. This was one of our final interviews. As you saw, we've interviewed Sheriff Chad Bianco, Tom Steyer, and really the only question I've gotten from anyone consistently, Matt Mahan, is it Annie or Annie Rose? Okay. That's been the main question from anyone. And so to have this start this way before I had even asked the question, I mean, you're part of the debate. You know it's about asking some of the hard questions sometimes, but
even before she asked a question, he wanted to make sure there were no tough questions.
Allowing our viewers to get to know each candidate. And so that is why not just myself, but our editors and executive producers here at KGLA decided to include that portion. Yeah. I was also surprised there were a couple of candidates you've spoken to already who didn't have a plan for homelessness on their websites, which is one of the...
In fact, their interview with Katie Porter was really damning because she starts saying, well, what I would do is I would put a bunch of people in motels, and Annie Rose says, that's what they're doing here, and it hasn't worked. It's when she says, well, I haven't really been paying attention to what LA's doing.
On their websites, which is one of the biggest concerns Californians have, which strikes me because I've heard that a couple of times. I think that's why it was a priority to ask. I mean, not just for myself as a woman who lives on her own in the city.
I mean, it is one of those problems that affects all the senses because you can feel it, you can see it, and you can smell it right here.
For myself as a woman who lives on her own in the city of Los Angeles, but I think for so many people that we speak to out on the street, they want to know how a governor or candidate is going to solve this or at least work on this. And so that's a huge priority, I know, for voters who are focusing in and deciding on who to choose. And so it's why we wanted to sort of press on this issue for each candidate.
All right, we should say that Javier Becerra is one of the top polling candidates right now and continue.
What does that say about the electorate? But this is what's really funny. Is because of our early voting system where everyone already has the ballot, the election day is June 2nd, there could be people out there that would be very turned off by this exchange in the interview, but they already voted for him. By the way, this is a profile piece. This is not a gotcha piece, right?
Well, look, I think these questions.
I just gotta save that. I mean, it's pretty golden. By the way, this is a profile piece. This is not a gotcha piece, right? 800-222-5222 is the telephone number if you want to weigh in on this. 1-800-222-5222. It's Randy Wang on the John Phillips Show.
JAC, dependable traffic. Now.
Message rejected. Sanjo Komi? Well, I'm just driving home right now. I'm listening to the radio. Thought I would just share a little something with the John Phillips Show. Listening to Randy Wang. Just kind of give an explanation or his point of view, his opinion. So, you guys, I'm glad you guys took the poll. It looks like 79%, 75% not voting. You guys should vote, man. I mean, California is going down the drain, and we need to vote and get these people out that are taking the money and putting it who knows where instead of actually doing something with California. So hopefully, whoa, there's a doctor right here trying to get me to run into him, but nah, not today, bro. Not today, bro. Not today. All right, still driving home, almost home. So I'm almost gonna cut this live. So I just wanted to say thank you for being on there really quick, for voting, for taking that poll. It just gives me an idea of what's going down. I don't know if some of these people live in California or don't live in California, but it looks like a lot of people don't want to vote, but they should because I mean we're getting robbed blind. Like, they're taking our money from our wallets, and we're just like, all right, that's cool. Take it and do whatever you want with it. That's not the way it should be. You need to take care of the homeless and the vets, the veterinarian, the veterans, the homeless, the mentally ill. Those people need a lot of help. So let's get these new people in. Get these old politicians, professional thieves, in my opinion. But let's make it happen, right? Vote for the right people to do the right thing. That's it. Don't be voting for these people that just want to take your money. What? Like complaining? I don't want to complain. I don't like complaining. I want something to get done. So, almost here. Out here in the Covina area. Pretty nice area. Pretty chill, pretty calm. Covina, West Covina, Azusa, Glendora, San Dimas, Irwindale, very nice cities. It is getting packed. A lot of cars out here. All right, people, we'll see you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for participating in the poll. Peace. Al rato, vato. Al rato, homie. Ahí nos vemos. Peace.